What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives Off the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're taking a look at the Pena Knives Mula. Now, this Mula is the X series version of the knife, as you can clearly see right there. Pena X series, and the X series is the production side of Pena knives, right? Enrique Peña is a custom knife maker, and he does a lot of custom knives. He's one of the more active custom knife makers. You can find a lot of his custom knives in different websites, but those are expensive knives, as most custom knives are. So he partnered up with Reate to bring his X series. So this is the production version made by Reate for Enrique Peña. So let me give you a tour of the Mula, and we can get started with our review. So the Mula has a drop point blade with a swedge that almost looks like a spear point. It's in M390, as you can see here. It's a thumb stud deployment only knife, so it deploys as so. So there's a titanium version only. There's a natural micarta, brown micarta. This is the green micarta version of the knife. It has a milled pocket clip. It has a lock bar insert, and it is a titanium frame lock. So now it's a really good sized knife. And let me give you, so the blade length is right at 3¼ inches. So if you follow my channel for any amount of time, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that 3¼ is kind of the best size for me. You know, it's a size that gives me enough blade for everything that I need in EDC, but gives me enough handle, you know, to really have a full purchase on the knife. Usually knives with smaller blades don't give me a full purchase on the knife. Now, the Para 3 is kind of the exception to that, because the blade to handle ratio is kind of way off on the Para 3. But that's kind of why I like the Para 3, because I can get I can get all the handle I want on a smaller blade. You don't see that very much. You don't see that in a lot of knives. So this is kind of what you have. It's running on bearings. So the action is supremely smooth on this. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but let me give you some size comparisons so you can have an idea on why I think this is kind of a really nicely sized knife. So that right there is the Para 2, and this is the Para 3. So as you can see, size wise, if I give you the length comparison, you know, the Para 2 is much longer. The Para 3, it's probably lengthwise is kind of the length of the Para 3, but sharpened blade length is a lot more like the Para 2. So really good blade to handle ratio on the Mula. And especially, let me show you when you compare the carry on this, it's much slimmer in profile. So this is a knife that carries in the pocket really well. I'm not gonna say that it disappears in your pocket, but it carries extremely nicely. I enjoy carrying the Pena Mula, and so let me give you probably the best size comparison is that one right there. That's the full size bug out from Benchmade, and this is the mini bug out. So as you can see, the lines, the proportions, very similar to the full size bug out. It's a little bit thicker than the bug out. I'll show you here on the side a little bit. But as you can see, if you enjoy carrying a bug out, this is gonna be very similar. You know, the length of the carry, all of that is gonna be very similar. Now, as I'm saying, this is a little bit thicker, so that's your thickness comparison right there for the knives. So a very nicely sized knife, carries very well in the pocket. So let's get started with our analysis of this knife. This is a very good knife. I enjoy it quite a bit. So ergonomics. So it has an extremely neutral handle, right? There's basically no ergonomic lines in this profile. Similar to what you see here in the Para 2, right? You see a finger choil, you see a finger groove, a palm swell, and a thinning of the knife handle in this direction in this profile, right? You don't see much of that in the Mula. I mean, you see a little bit of a bump here, and that's kind of it. But it feels really, really nicely in the hand without it being perfect. The pocket clip is a little bit of a hot spot. It's not rounded. The pocket clip's not rounded in that direction. So I almost want to hold this knife in a saber grip right here, and the clip lands right in the ball of my hand. So it's not as so it lands right there. So it's not as comfortable in the saber grip. In a hammer grip, the clip lands in the hollow of my hand. So in this position, it's much more comfortable. Now the ergonomics are solid, but they're not outstanding. And the reason it's not outstanding for me in my large hands is because it's a thinner profile knife. So the handle on a Para 2, it's much wider in this direction, so it feels my hand much better. And the Para 2 is also much thicker. This one, it's a little bit slimmer, it's a little bit narrower, so it feels in my hand kind of like what the bug out feels, where it kind of, I have large hands, so it kind of disappears in my hand. It's a little bit narrow. So I would say that the ergonomics are solid, especially because you have this face and that face that you see right here. This face and that face, they are pretty chamfered. So even though the knife is not contoured in that direction, the fact that you have the transition from this face to that face, and then the micarta is a little bit raised, and all of that, it gives the impression of it being contoured. So it's comfortable in the hand, without, when you have this much of a neutral handle, you can't expect, just melting your hand ergonomics most of the time. But I would say that the ergonomics are solid. They're very comparable to a bug out. Something in that range is what you can expect. But because of the neutral handle, the ergonomics in a variety of different grips, is pretty much the same. You have the same kind of purchase on most of them. Something that's interesting about the ergonomics is this area right here. So it's not quite a finger choil. It's not quite rounded for a choil, but I find myself that my finger really wants to land on this flat area here, where I can be a little bit closer to the cutting edge. So I'm not sure if that's the intent of this area. It would seem to me that it is. It's comfortable to hold in that position where you're closer to the edge of the knife. So ergonomics solid without them being outstanding because of because of no contouring or for your hand. It doesn't guide your hand to a specific grip. Now, action on this knife is phenomenal. It's thumb stud only, and I generally prefer flippers. Okay, flipper is my preferred deployment method, but this one, the detent is just outstanding. It fires so reliably, it fires with a lot of satisfaction, and the closing action is everything you expect from a Reate knife. I've mentioned this before. Reate has so much practice with so many different knives, knife makers, knife designs, that they've become kind of masters of action. The action on Reate-made knives is just so finely tuned that it's become one of the premier actions in the knife community. Of course, they're made in China, and that deters some people from getting some of these knives. But at the same time, it's the only way that we get an Enrique Peña knife in our hands, to have Reate make them. And in all honesty, the quality of Reate is so good that I don't feel the the impetus, this huge desire to go to the next level up of the custom knife. It is so good that I don't feel like I need the custom. In some knives, the OEM version of the knife is a little bit suspect, and you're kind of hoping for the custom, right, to get the full experience. But with the Reate-made knife, I don't get that. I get kind of my fill of quality, because they make such good knives, and the action from Reate is just incredibly smooth. It fires incredibly reliably. It drops shut. It's a lighter, thinner blade, so it doesn't completely fall shut, but it is this controlled shut, controlled drop that I enjoy very much. It's very smooth. It fires super nicely. It is very satisfying to deploy, and it is actually pretty fidgety, because just deploying with the thumb, it's so satisfying. It just feels really, really nicely in the hand. Now, a knife is supposed to cut, and this one actually cuts very well. Let me show you here thickness of the blade comparison. So the blade is thicker than your bug out, as you can see right there, but it's not quite at the level of your Para 2. Okay, so the cutting action is between those two. The bug out is extremely slicey because it's a thin blade, and it's mostly flat ground from the top to the bottom. This one's a little bit thicker, and it's more of a saber grind. The flat carries here, I don't know, 30% of the blade down. So so this one is a little bit more robust than the bug out. So the slicey portion of it, the bug out's going to be a little bit better. Cutting it's I would still say probably that the Para 2 and Para 3 are probably better slicers, because even though it has a thicker blade stock, the flat carries all throughout, but it's closer in the neighborhood of what you would expect cutting from a Para 2. But again, so this is probably a little bit of a tougher use, or a more durable design than a bug out. So for a lot of people, if you don't want to be kind of babying your knife, and you're kind of worried about a bug out type blade, this is probably a really solid middle ground. The tip, it carries a lot of material. The flat carries to about right here, and then it tapers in, but it's not a weak tip. If I show you in that profile right there, the difference to the tip of a bug out, you'd be, this is a far more reliable. I would never suggest that you pry with your knives, but if you're going to, then this would be a far better choice. It's a little bit of a harder use, more robust knife than the bug out is. So now let's talk fit and finish. And fit and finish is outstanding on this knife. Like I said, the action is really good. The inlay is perfectly done. Everything's chamfered where you would expect it. You've got a little bit of jimping. I love this. This is my favorite kind of jimping, where the lines are very close together and are shallow, because it provides traction. My finger will not move from that position, but I can use it all day, and it won't hurt my finger, with some of the more aggressive jimping. The grind lines on the blade are amazing. The grind lines on the swedge, compared to the kind of hand rub satin flats that are going this way, I love the contrast that they've achieved. The use of bearings, the pocket clip that is milled. Again, the pocket clip, it works really well in the pocket, going in and out of the pocket. It works really well. I just wish that there was, you have chamfering in the side of the blade, you have chamfering in the handle, but you don't have chamfering in the pocket clip, and I think that's missing here to make it far more comfortable. The 90-degree edge from this face of the clip to that face of the clip, you can feel it in the hand. So I think, I mean, it's not a, it's part of the design, not a part of the fit and finish. I mean, they've done what it's intended perfectly. I forgot to mention there's a lanyard on this. There's a lanyard kind of bar hole here in the back, but it's kind of hidden away. I mean, if you couldn't even tell that it's there until you look in this profile. So it's very, very nicely done. The back spacer kind of loops around it. So fit and finish, I found that most Reate-made knives are just incredibly well made, and I've enjoyed every one of them. And the Mula is an outstanding example of that. The design of Enrique Peña with the partnership with Reate is just incredibly well done. It's just very, very nicely done. So now, airing of grievances, not a lot. I mean, I would like a flipper version of this knife. You know, if you had a flipper, you would lose this flat area that I kind of enjoyed. So it kind of be a trade-off, right? I'd only be able to hold the knife back here, but I do enjoy flippers, and I think this could benefit from a flipper as far as the action goes. Now, it would affect the carry profile, which is very, you know, very slim as it is. You know, instead of having a pocket pecker out here, but I would enjoy a flipper on this. Lock bar access is better than most Peñas, especially the Raptors and the Apaches and all of those. The blade gap here is very narrow. This one's a little bit thicker blade stock, so it increases the distance between the scales. And you have this little notch on both sides, so it's not great access, but it's much better than his other offerings, so I appreciate that. I would like it a little bit better, a little bit wider still, so a little bit more, but you do have a little bit of jimping. You see the kind of divots that they've done here, and so that's nicely done, but I would like a little bit more space to put my finger in. I think that the thing that my biggest gripe with this knife is two things, and it's all in this area. One is the pocket clip, and we've talked about that. But the other is this area. You know, I know what they're trying to do here. Okay, it's the relief for the lock bar is that you can push it and it's not too hard. But I like when they do that internally, because when you have this kind of washboard type cutout here on the milling, every time it goes inside of your pants, you know, you hear that? It's rubbing against your pants, and it's going to destroy your pants. And if you're like me, you know, you wear a knife every single day, that's a problem. It's a problem. It starts to destroy your, I mean, even the toughest jeans that I have this problem. So I would like to see this either a full pocket, because once you do the first meal, right, that's the weakest point right there. You don't need any of these lines. These are just decoration. So if you want to do it that long, that's fine, but just do the entire thing, or do it internally where it doesn't rub against your pants. But doing it externally over here, it's problematic coming in and out of the pocket. Now, all that said, conclusion on this knife is that it is an outstanding, beautifully made knife that is excellent to pocket, that cuts very well, that the action is superb. It is highly recommended knife for me. I'm gonna link to my Pena Knives brand overview. I'm gonna link it up here, and in that you'll see that out of the Pena lineup, this is the one that I would recommend you to start with. It is just an outstanding example of Peña's design and his collaboration with Reate. All of that stuff is just perfectly well executed in this knife, and I think it's an excellent. It's not one of his smaller designs. It's not one of his more aggressive tactical designs like the Rhino or the Mini Diesel, but it is just a very kind of classy, simple, minimalistic, well executed, excellent action type of design. So I would highly recommend it. Guys, hopefully you have enjoyed this. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. I do recommend this knife. I hope that this was enjoyable, and if it was, then like and subscribe. Don't get notification. Nobody likes to get more emails, but you know where to find my content if you want to see more. And until you see you at the next one, take care.